This week on Dance of Joy, we're stumped by a repeat reference, confused by Balki's pajamas, and frustrated by Jennifer's life choices. All that and more as we watch Season 3, Episode 10 of our favorite 80s hit sitcom, Perfect Strangers. Hello and welcome to Dance of Joy, a Perfect Strangers rewatch podcast. My name is Sophia. I'm one of your hosts, and joining me today is your other host and my other brother. Nope, my only brother. What's up, Imran?
Wait a minute, you have another brother? Why is the first time hearing about
this? None that I know of just yet, but I suppose it's possible.
I'm good. I just got back. I was playing behind the Burger King down the street here. There's a rip in the space-time continuum. Nobody's noticed. It's fun.
Wow. Where'd you get to?
You could jump to the future, the past. You know, the only thing you don't want to do is talk to yourself. It creates a paradox, and then things go bad. Also, don't step on butterflies. It's the other advice I was given. I don't know what that means.
Interesting. Very apt for today's discussion. Today, we're talking about Season 3, Episode 10 of Perfect Strangers, which is called Future Shock.
Oh, Future Shock.
Future Shock.
This is a reference. It's the name of a really popular science fiction novel called Future Shock. It was published in 1970 by Alvin Toffler. Some of you may have read it. It sold like 6 million copies. Translated to a lot of languages, and it's about society changing kind of too fast for their own good, you know? And it's kind of something we're going through. You've been through now.
Yeah.
The way computers and microchips are getting smaller and smaller. Can society handle change at the rate that it's changing? I don't think they can.
No. I don't think so.
But in this episode in the TV Guide, if you cracked that open, you would have read the description. After learning that Jennifer is moving to Los Angeles, Larry regrets that he never expressed his feelings and dreams of a time 40 years in the future when a decrepit Larry awaits Jennifer's return. So we got a little time travel-ish.
Wow. Time travel or dream travel?
Dream travel. Future projections.
Yes. Which in 87 might have been one and the same. Time travel and dream travel.
Yeah.
Yes. It's a shock. In either case, it's a shock.
It's definitely a shock.
This episode stars the four central characters that we know and love. Bronson Pinchot, Marklyn Baker, and Rebecca Arthur and Melanie Wilson as Marianne and Jennifer. And this episode aired on November 25th, 1987.
Oh, happy Thanksgiving, 1987.
Almost. Act 1, let's get into it. We have a quick opening gag. The two couples are in the guy's living room, and they're playing charades, and Balki's up, and he says, "This is a hard one. You'll never get this." And he makes the gesture for just the category of movie. That's all he does,
yes,
that movie gesture.
Yes.
And all the other three all at once go Bambi.
Bambi.
And Balki's like, boy, you guys are good. And then we find out that Balki always does Bambi.
Have they updated that move in charades? Because if you do that in front of kids now, they're like,
yeah, they're not going to know. That's good point.
Are you cranking cotton candy? What is that? What's going on? That's a movie? How do you make movies?
That's a very good point. I mean, they might see it like directors in Hollywood. I don't know. That's a very good point.
It's such a weird thing. It just occurred to me that like the movie crank motion.
Also, I often, this is a bit of a tangent, but I often have that thought about, the save icon on computers?
Yes.
What is it?
It's a disc, but
right.
kids are like,
do young people know what that is? Or do they just think that that's the save icon?
Yeah. Or like envelope for email, like they stopped using that a long time ago too. Nobody knows what an envelope is. But yeah, the save disc icon, people, they're probably wondering.
I think they just know it as the save button, not like that it's a picture of a disc.
You could completely redesign that icon and it would be fine. I wouldn't miss it.
Anyway, we digress. Getting back to Act 1. So, yeah, Balki always does Bambi. They're playing charades. They all settle on the couch. They're having a good sort of like double date night. And Marianne remarks about how much fun the four of them always have together. And then she tells the guys that Jennifer has some news. Cool. And Jennifer's like, gives her this look like, why'd you have to say that? And so Jennifer nervously tells the gentleman that she has been offered a promotion by the airline that she works for, and she's moving to Los Angeles.
Oh, my.
And then Marianne, as if prodding Jennifer to have this conversation, goes, "What do you think about that, Larry?"
I love the way she says it, too.
What do you think about that,
What do
Larry?
you think about that, Larry? As if, huh?
Yeah.
Because now we need something to happen. And Larry is, of course, surprised and sad and tries to act, supportive. And he goes, "Oh, a promotion, Los Angeles. That's great." And then Balki's like to Marianne, "Are you moving to Los Angeles?" And Marianne goes, "Oh, no.
Oh, no.
I have allergies. What does that even mean? I don't know."
But she says it like matter-of-factly, duh, I have allergies.
You're allergic to Los Angeles. I understand. I'm not sure what you're allergic to specifically.
So Jennifer tells Larry she has not yet given the airline a definite answer, but she says, it's a good career move. It's more money. The weather is great, but Chicago is my home. She hesitates.
Mm-hmm.
Says, Chicago is my home. Then Marianne goes, "What do you think about that, Larry?"
I love it. Marianne has some great lines this episode. And now there's a lot of repeating things each other has said as they try to feel each other out. Larry's flustered, but he wants to be supportive. And he repeats, it's a good career move, more money. The weather is great. And then he's like, maybe you should go for it. You know what they say? Opportunity knocks but once. And now Jennifer is sad.
Yeah, now Jennifer is like, okay, that's not sort of what she was hoping to hear.
That's not what she wanted to hear.
So she kind of reluctantly agrees with Larry, and she says, "You're right. I don't know why I was so indecisive. I guess if it's a good career move and it's more money and the weather is great." That's a third time we hear these. Repetition is like a very easy tool in sitcom writing for comedy, so I'm told. But repetition gets a laugh, and it's like the audience recognizes something, and that's what
they're driving the point home, and it takes up time. You pad out your time.
Yeah, so I guess if it's a good career move, it's more money, and the weather is great. Well, what's keeping me here? And then she just looks straight at Larry, and Larry just says nothing, and he's like fidgety eyes around the room and says nothing, and then Jennifer's like, "Nothing."
What do you think about that, Larry?
No, that line doesn't come, but it was thought. So Jennifer ends with what's keeping me here. Larry says nothing, and then she goes, "Okay, I guess nothing." Or Larry doesn't say anything, and then Jennifer says nothing is keeping her there. Okay, so here's something I'd like to talk about coming up in the next line.
It's a weird exchange that we've heard before and still makes no sense to me.
All right, let us explain. The girls leave, okay, and Balki turns to Larry, and he's like, "I can't believe you," kind of look on his face. And he says to Larry, "Opportunity knocks but once. The woman of your dreams is leaving for California, and that's all you can say? Opportunity knocks but once? Can you afford it?"
And there's a light laugh on that one. Now, listener, if this sounds familiar, back in season 2, the finale episode where Elaine shows up, Larry's sister Elaine, hello Elaine, the same thing happens when Elaine goes to the bedroom and she's trying to get Larry to say, good luck. I believe you. I'm supportive, and he doesn't give her that, and she leaves. Balki does the same thing, and he goes, "That's all you're going to say to your sister? Good luck. Don't get sleepy on the road. Can you afford it?" And then there's another laugh.
There was a big laugh on that one. Now, back when we talked about that episode, we were a little confused by the line. We didn't get it. And I remember you and I talked about, most likely there was something else cut from this scene that would make this line make sense. That's what we concluded then. But now we have a very similar situation. That's all you're going to say. Can you afford it?
Yeah. I think.
What is this reference?
I have no idea. I do not know. I feel like it may have been a commercial, maybe a regional commercial. And it was
just some other thing that was popular in the culture at the time. Some phrase that we don't know about.
Can you afford it? It's so strange.
if anyone's listening and knows what this reference is, please let us know. It's not an easy thing to Google and search for because
No.
it's like kind of a common phrase. I tried looking. I just got like bank websites and like
But then
investment.
It sounded like me like the writers were just maybe copy pasting the same dialogue over and over again. So I went to check.
That's weird.
Who wrote this episode and who wrote the season 2 episode? You know what? Completely different people.
Different writers. So it might have been like a Bronson Pinchot thing or a Marklin Baker thing.
We need to contact Bronson Pinchot and be like, what does "can you afford it" mean, Bronson?
Or we just need to tell him.
Jeez.
We just need to write, "Can you afford it?" and see what he says. But I'm really super curious. I want to know what this reference is. I don't remember it. I was young at the time, but I don't
get it, and it's perplexing. I'm kind of obsessed.
I tried and tried and tried to look for it, and
I don't
nothing.
know. Anyways, this first act is very short, and Larry still thinks Jennifer has made her plans, and he's not part of them, and he says it's not worth it. Balki puts his arm around him and says, "Listen to the wisdom that made Mipos great," and he's going to give him a nice idiom from Mipos here. He says, "There are none so blind as those who will not hear." That's deep.
That's actually a very deep and profound. That's one that makes sense. That's not like a silly one.
And then he tells Larry that he must tell Jennifer that he will die 1,000 deaths if she go to California. But Larry thinks she's going to laugh in his face. And Balki says, if you don't tell her, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. And this time, Larry goes for the antacid. It's not in the fridge. It's in the cupboard. In the kitchen
room temperature.
Cabinet. Ew, he is.
Room
this is
temperature
how down
antacid.
he is. He's down to room temperature antacid. He says, takes a swig. He goes, forget it, Balki. Nothing you say will change my mind. As the very short Act 1 ends.
Very short Act 1. Yeah, and we fade to black.
Listener, if you know this reference, can you afford it? There's a way you can comment on our episodes that we do and let us know what it is. Join our Facebook group. It's called Dance of Joy Podcast Facebook group. It's where I post a thread on the episode we're recording. And then you can leave your comments and questions and observations, and we're going to work them in at the end of the show in the shout outs. Or if anybody's old enough that remembers a commercial where it said, can you afford it?
Can you afford it?
Is it for insurance? Is it for a car?
But it comes after a sentiment, something like that, something along the lines of, that's all you have to say. Can you afford it?
This is going to keep me up at night. Anyways, Act 2, sister.
Act 2, we are now in a place that we have not seen before and probably will not see much again. We're in Larry's bedroom. Take note that he's a young 20-something and he's sleeping on a twin bed, a very small bed.
It's a very small childlike bed, yes.
It's very small around him. Yeah. Maybe that was the style in the 80s for young bachelors.
Maybe it's a small bedroom. I don't know.
Maybe. Anyway, he's sleeping. He's tossing and turning as if having a bad dream or something. And then we hear this kind of like magical sound music that was very common in 80s sitcoms and 70s. Like it's like sci-fi-ish. And then this like
wavy video effects,
wavy, watery thing on the screen.
It's a dream, people.
Which of course denotes a dream sequence, right? And so, and as we're hearing the music and seeing the waviness, we hear a voiceover of Balki's voice, kind of echoey, which also was a thing with dream sequences.
Yes.
We hear Balki saying, you're going to regret it the rest of your life. Opportunity knocks but once. You're going to be a lonely old man. Old man.
You know what's weird?
Man.
Balki, when did he say that? He never said you're going to be a lonely old man.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It might have been cut. But anyway, it works here just as well. Yeah. Like it's in his head. He said it to him either in front of us or us, not in front of us.
Well, it happens again.
These words are echoing in Larry's head.
The next time they do this, there's Balki lines that he never said.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. You're going to be a lonely old man. Then we see, then it sort of like waves us into the dream.
Ooh, the dream. Okay?
And the dream starts in the other apartment.
Marianne and Jennifer's
what we have
apartment.
previously seen in a previous episode as Marianne and Jennifer's apartment.
How
So
do you
the
know
upstairs apartment?
It's their apartment?
How do we know? Because even in the dream, it is the same wallpaper, that like pastel striped wallpaper pattern that is also on the pillows and the chairs and the tablecloth.
Right, yes.
And all these things. Okay. And then we see Marianne, and she's in makeup. She's grown. She's an old lady now. She has like a old lady poofy bouffant haircut.
Yeah.
And they have her in very obvious sort of old makeup. And she's like, walking around the apartment, and then Balki arrives through the front door.
Balki looks amazing.
Balki has aged very well. He looks dapper. He's got a mustache. He's got slicked like salt and pepper hair. He's got a briefcase because in their future, briefcases are still a thing. We talked about how they're not
going to be around anymore in the future.
And he's wearing he's like all dressed up in like a suit jacket, and he's got an ascot.
Ascot. Yeah, it's great.
Denoting, like that he has money, I guess. Ascot means money, and that he's like a fancy guy now. He crosses the apartment, goes to Marianne, and he says very debonairly, "Darling, I'm home." And then he grabs her and dips her into a passionate kiss, comes out of it, and then we have a Balki trademark.
Wow.
And then we find out, because he says married 37 years, and you're still my spicy little lamb kebab. So we're in the future at least 37 years.
At least.
We later find out it's 40 years in the future.
So they were engaged maybe 3 years, or
dating 3 years,
and then got married. But
so
we're about 40-ish years in the future here.
Which is 2027.
Yeah, which is not far from our present time, which is
not
also crazy.
Not far from right now.
So Marianne asks Balki how his day was, and we find out that Balki's like a rich real estate magnate. He goes, I bought 2 more shopping malls and a hotel. And Marianne is like, Balki, I thought we agreed we had enough hotels. And he goes, well, this one had a revolving door. You know how much I love revolving doors.
Which is a cute little reference to the opening credits.
If he's this rich, why do they still live in the little cramped apartment there?
Fair point.
That doesn't make any sense.
Fair point.
But they start smooching on the couch again, and he rolls her over, and then there's a knock on the door, and they stop kissing, and they both lift their heads and simultaneously go, "Come in, cousin Larry." And then we see Larry. Oh my God.
And what does Larry look like 40 years in the future?
Okay, so the old age makeup, it looks all right on Marianne, and on Bronson it looks okay. Larry, the makeup is amazing.
I think it looks really good.
It's a scary look. He is a hot mess he's got a bald spot. He's old and slow, and he's got his pants hiked up to his nipples where his belt line is.
Shuffling. He's not moving as smoothly. Yeah. He's a hot mess of an old man.
Yeah, the other 2 are smooth, and he is just barely walking around.
And the other 2 are rich and fancy, and he just looks like he's had a rough and sad life. He's sad.
Yeah, he looks very sad and scary and disturbing.
And he's holding a check in his hand, which is also funny because we know that by 2027, nobody really uses
Come on,
checks.
writers. You thought they're still going to use I guess it's a dream, so nothing really matters.
It's a dream.
Yeah,
it's a dream.
It's not an actual,
But he has a check in his hand, and we find out that it's a rent check that he's come to give Balki and Marianne, but he's a little bit short this month. And Marianne reminds him that he doesn't need to pay rent because Balki owns the building.
Maybe that's why he lives there. He's like, I'm just going to live in this.
Maybe. But Larry insists. He says an Appleton likes to pay his own way. And then he's like, I'll make it up next month. And he asks Balki how far behind he is, how much he owes. And Balki tries to wave it off. He's like, it's nothing. It's a pittance. It's whatever. And Larry keeps pressing him until Balki finally says $35,000.
Yikes.
And Larry just kind of gasps. And
then he just starts wheezing. And then he hits him. And he's like, I'm good for it. One of these days, I'm going to hit the lottery. And Balki goes, well, of course you are. Don't be absurd.
Absurd.
Oh, I love that.
He's got fancier words.
He's
now.
elevated his catchphrases to don't be
His
absurd.
vocabulary, yeah.
And then we get a great running gag where Larry sniffs in the air. And then Balki like turns around and looks to see if he farted. But he's like, is that pig snout I smell? I haven't had a good pig snout dinner since, and Marianne goes, yesterday. And Larry's like, oh, right. It's Ding Ding Mahmoud. They're eating Ding Ding Mahmoud.
Every night.
Every night,
Larry.
I guess. And he walks over, they invite him over for dinner, and he goes, I could never say no to Marianne's snout.
And we also find out that also lets us know that Larry joins them for dinner like every
because
night.
the table is already set for 3, and he's like, "Oh,
Right,
expecting someone?" He's like, "Well, we're expecting you."
Only you,
He's like,
Cousin Larry.
"Oh, I'm glad I showed up then."
Yeah.
Boy, it's so sad.
Which
It
is
so
that,
sad.
which means he doesn't have dinner with anyone else.
You
in his
clearly
own
get the sense that they are like his
Yeah.
caretakers,
Yeah.
and it's so sad. And what was the moment that sent him there? We're gonna find out.
We're gonna find out. They sit down at the dinner table, and Larry tucks his napkin into his like collar, and he looks like a sad, childlike old man bib thing. And then they start to eat, and Marianne looks at Balki like sort of flirtatiously, and she goes, "I made Jell-O for dessert," and they're like about to like be all flirty and saucy, and then Larry interrupts. He goes, "I love Jell-O, love Jell-O, always have, and
Always
then
have, always will."
Marianne and Balki just like look at him, and there's no lines, but it's so funny that they just turn and like look at him.
He's just a senile old man
And there's
at
like
this
a
point.
beat of them just looking at him in silence. And there's laughs. And so then the next line, Marianne breaks up the beat. She says that she got a letter from Jennifer.
Oh.
And Larry says, Jennifer? I don't remember any Jennifer. And we can tell by his like sadness and that he's lying. And then Balki chimes in just in case he wasn't. He says, remember, you let her go to Los Angeles, and it ruined your life. And Larry's like, nope. Can't place her.
And then I love this next bit because they're talking about what's in the letter. And apparently Marianne says Jennifer is getting a divorce. And they're talking about her husbands. And this is wild.
Yeah,
I love this. She goes, I think he's a Yugoslavian prince. And Balki's like, are you sure he's not the astronaut? Then Larry suddenly interrupts, goes, no, the prince was her second husband. He came between the Texas oil man and the astronaut. She's divorcing her fourth husband. I don't know what he does, but I think he owns Asia.
I think he
and then they
owns
look at her. They both look at him, and he's like, if it's the Jennifer I'm thinking about.
Okay, so let's stop here for a moment because this is so funny to me because
so great.
In 1987, Larry's dream imagination, he imagines that like a hot promotion and move to Los Angeles for an airline.
For an airline,
as a flight attendant.
Leads to parties and getting married.
To this lavish, amazing lifestyle where she's constantly marrying rich guys, which I don't know. Is that how flight attendants live? Maybe I'm missing out.
They're
Maybe
glamorous.
I should have been a flight attendant. This glamorous, that's the word.
Yeah.
But that's the imagination. Like, it's not like entertainment or like, I don't know. It's just an airline moves her to LA and she leaves and then but this is how Larry's brain is working, right? Like in his dream, he's worried that he let her go and then she lived this glamorous life and married multiple like millionaires and
now she's marrying the guy that owns Asia.
And the owner of Asia.
That's a great joke.
So the last line of this particular scene is Balki saying, oh, how great it'll be that Larry will finally be able to see Jennifer face to face. And then we see Larry looking like panicked, like, oh. Uh-oh. And then we're still in the dream, but we have to transition to another scene. So we have more of that like space AG.
That's weird. I don't know. Was that necessary? I thought the dream they were coming out of the dream, but it's
you're right.
It's a scene change within dream. You didn't need the wavy lines. Maybe I don't know.
You're right. I think that should be reserved for just entering and exiting.
When it clears up, we get possibly the most disturbing look at the cousin's apartment. The scariest lit. Grungiest future apartment. It's so creepy. It just gave me chills.
So it's Larry's same apartment that he's living in 40 years later.
Yeah.
But What does it look like? What gave you chills?
Well, it was
Describe
dark. The walls are dirty. There are stacks of newspapers like he's a hoarder. There you can see empty bottles of antacid everywhere. And the creepiest thing, the walls are covered with photos and like oil paintings of Jennifer. He has multiple shrines.
And like cardboard cutouts.
Yes, it
and
is
like
so
framed
dingy and it's a
photographs.
mess. And he's just disheveled and we'll get to his clothes. But God, this whole thing creeped me out. And even like Bronson Balki the acting is weird. Like there's something weird in this dream sequence. I can't put my finger on it. I think there must have been a lot of bloopers that they had to cut around, and we'll get to something they left in. But it was just weird. The whole thing
when
was
we
weird.
first cut to this apartment, we see it. We see like the state of it. It's the wallpaper's tattered as well, and it's dark. They purposely made it like dark, right? And then Larry is like shuffling about, and he goes over to the fireplace, the mantle, and there's like a big, there's like framed photos of Jennifer on the mantle. And he picks up one of the loose bottles of antacid that's like lying on a table there, and he holds it up to the picture like a toast, and he says, "Here's looking at you, kid." And he tries to take a swig, but the bottle it's empty.
Wah, wah. Nothing in there. That line, that's a reference. It's a Larry. Larry actually given the references this time. That's different. But famous reference, here's looking at you, kid. Humphrey Bogart quote from Casablanca.
1942.
Have you ever seen that movie?
I think once or twice a long time ago. I've been to Casablanca, but it's
well, here's the weird thing about that movie. You know, if you studied film history,
not filmed there.
No, it wasn't filmed there. But if it has a place in history, is that it was the birth of like movie cliches, right?
Oh yeah,
a lot of things that they did the first time was in there. So and I watched it many years ago, but now if you watch it now, you were like, this movie is just made up of movie tropes and cliches.
It's just
but that was the first time it did it. It's weird to watch now. Like everything.
If it's the first time, then
everything
it's
is now a thing, and you're like, oh, they just stole stuff from other movies. No. It all started here. But it
was the original. Yeah,
you should watch it for that.
Will do. Okay, so we see that Larry is sad. His apartment is sad. He's acting sad. Balki comes in, flips on the light, looks around, and then says, tells Larry that Jennifer's here and they've all been waiting for him for 20 minutes. Oh. And then Larry says the saddest thing ever. He says, "I started dressing 3 hours ago, but I can't help but feel something's missing." And then Balki looks down at him and the camera sort of pans out and he says, "Your pants, perhaps?"
Oh,
and then we see that Larry is in a shirt, a necktie, which I'll come back to in a minute, and he's in boxer shorts, socks, shoes, garters, but no pants.
No pants.
And this necktie, I don't know what they were thinking about fashion in the future, but he is an old man.
Yeah.
But it's like short, but super wide and big and clownish.
Yeah, he looks
but short. Yeah,
I think it was for the look. So it's a big oversized necktie, but even the shirt is too big for him.
Oh, yeah, it's too big.
And it's completely wrinkled.
Yeah.
And then here is this next part is great. It's a literal double blooper that stays in the show. So Larry's putting his pants on and Balki's trying to get him to go to see Jennifer. And Larry's like, "What's the point? Any feelings I had for Jennifer are dead and buried," which they're clearly not, as Balki looks around and looks at all the photos and paintings of Jennifer. Then he goes, "Well, from the looks of it, it's a shallow grave." But while he's doing this, Mark Lindbaker is putting on his pants, right? And he puts on his pants and he puts the button on and part of the shirt is sticking out of his zipper.
Suggestively.
Super funny. And then I was busy looking at that. If you watch it again, when Balki walks back towards him, he knocks one of the bottles of antacid off the stack of papers, and he looks at that.
Yeah, it falls to the floor.
While people are laughing at Mark Lindbaker adjusting his shirt and his pants.
But Mark Lindbaker, like, very swiftly just, like, pulls the shirt.
He pulls it up. Yeah, he should have left it out. It was funny.
Yeah. I thought, it was super funny.
But none of that was on purpose. Like, that whole sequence completely by accident. And I love that they left it in.
Yeah.
It's probably why the episode's so weird to me.
It is a weird episode, and we'll keep saying that a few more times.
It gets weirder.
Balki, so we have this little like bloopery thing, and then Balki tells Larry that he should go and tell Jennifer how he feels about her, as he should have done 40 years ago. And Larry says, it's Larry always being Larry. It's too late. It's over. It's done. And then Balki goes, oh, yeah, Yuki Biggie Mookie, cousin Larry. To which Larry, and there's no translation, and Larry just rolls with it. And he says, yes, easy for you to say. But for me, the ship has sailed. And then Larry says, Greeki Balti Bawatiki, Bigi Mookie Baba Sticky.
Oh my God. And then
so Larry in 40 years.
I love this.
Which, thank goodness, because if they were still making Neposian confusion jokes 40 years later,
Larry learned
that would be a problem.
Neposian, and
he did.
And he threw in a Baba Sticky, which made it even
Biggie Mookie
better.
Baba Sticky.
That was so great. I love that part.
And
that
he
part
just
was great.
understood. Balki didn't have to, because you'd think in 40 years, how many times you think Balki has said to Larry, Yuki Biggie Mookie, cousin Larry? Oh, yeah, Yuki Biggie Mookie, cousin Larry. It's probably like every other day he says that to him. So Larry by now knows
It's so
what that means.
great. And then Balki tells Larry that Jennifer said she'd love to see him again, and it gets Larry a little excited, a little interested. And Larry's like, I would like to see her again, see how she's changed, see if the years have treated her well. We could talk about all the things she's done, all the things I haven't done. So sad. It's so sad.
Oh, but Balki sees that he's interested, and he reminds Larry that there was once a spark there, and maybe he can fan it into a flame again. And he says, "Fan it, man, fan it."
I love that too. I don't know why. I just love it. He goes,
"Fan it, man."
Fan it, man.
He grabs him like by the shoulders, like they do. And so Larry finally agrees, and he says, "Okay, let's go see Jennifer." And then Balki says, "Oh, cousin, now we are so happy. We do the dance of joy."
No, we are getting an old
But
man
Larry
dance
is like
of
an
joy.
old, shuffly man who
So
can't
funny.
move.
Yeah.
And Balki's moving just fine. Larry's barely moving. And he doesn't make the jump at all into Balki's arms. He can barely.
He collapses
and then Balki
into
tries
him.
to pick him up, and then they both fall over onto the floor.
the end move, of course, is that Larry jumping into Balki's arms, and that's not happening. No.
They couldn't do it. And they fall to the floor, and it's a big laugh, and that's the end of our act 2.
This was it's the end of Act 2. This was a weird flashback. Dream sequence
forward.
But there's just some really funny things that happen in the flash forward. Oh, it's like Lost. There's a flash forward dream sequence. Before we find out if it's a good dream or a nightmare, listener, in Act 3, I want to let you know you can support the show like a lot of our listeners have. We love it. You can buy us a virtual coffee. It's a little tip jar on our website, danceofjoypod.com/support. You can buy us multiple coffees. You can buy us monthly coffees. There's a membership option. Thank you to all our supporters so far. You, listener, need to be our next supporter.
Act 3, we are not in the dream for just a moment. We're back in...
Larry's tossing and turning because he's having this
in bed in his bedroom. And we have to see this because it's after a commercial break. So we have to see him tossing and turning in bed again, just to remind viewers that.
Oh yeah, dream. That's right.
Oh yeah, we're doing a dream. That's what's happening. And then again, we hear Balki's voiceover saying things that he had. Well, some things that we've heard him.
And some he didn't.
We hear him saying, "This is your second chance. There was a spark there once. Fan it, man. Fan it.
Fan it.
This is your last chance. Last chance.
He didn't say that last line. He never said this is your last chance."
And then we get the music and the dream sequence music and the waves, and we go back to Marianne's apartment 40 years in the future. And Balki and Larry are entering the apartment. Larry's fully dressed now. He's also wearing an oversized jacket, oversized pants. And he says, "I don't know about this, Balki. I'm not as cute as I used to be. I'm an old man." And this is another weird thing that happens next. So Marianne comes out of the bedroom and looks at them, and she says, "Oh, you're here. And you look so clean." And Larry's hair is the little hair that he has around the sides. He's bald on top. but the hair on the sides is like a hot mess, and Frasley, he's like a frazzly hot mess old man.
By the way, that's probably what my head is going to look like when I get
I actually think it's kind of what Mark Lynn Baker's
what he looks like now.
hair looks like now.
Oh, that's a good point.
Just the hair.
Yeah.
But anyway, Marianne comes out from the bedroom. She says, "Oh, you're here, and you look so clean." The whole point of Marianne coming, because then she like leaves. I don't know. It's like a weird. What do you call it?
Blocking.
Blocking. It's weird blocking. But she comes out. She sees them, and then she says to Larry that Jennifer is nervous about seeing him.
Yeah, so this makes you think, like, what's Jennifer going to look like? Is she going to look like Marianne? Yeah. She's 2'8",
right.
So she gained weight. Why is she nervous?
Why is she nervous about seeing Larry?
And then Larry goes, maybe she's not as cute as she used to be.
Right. And then Marianne leaves and goes back to the bedroom as if to go get Jennifer, but then Jennifer comes out from the bedroom, and she is 1987 stunning.
That's hilarious. She's
1987 stunning.
She's the same.
They didn't put any makeup on her. It's the same Jennifer. Her hair is big as ever.
I don't understand how her hair stays in that shape. I was staring at it, and I'm like, how is that even?
She's had hairspray in it for 40 years.
You know what's the funniest thing about this? One is this is how Larry thinks that Jennifer won't age. Two, Melanie Wilson got out of getting old age makeup put on her. I think that's the bigger thing. She's like, oh, thank God, I don't have to sit.
But she's also wearing this like very 80s bright pink dress, like that's kind of a tight mini skirt, but like big shoulder pads on top, big hair. It's like this exact same like stunning 1987 Jennifer look.
She goes, "Hi, Larry," and he goes, "Jennifer, you haven't changed a bit." She's like, "Well," he's like, "No. I mean, you really haven't changed a bit. Nothing, not anything."
And that's kind of like, he's like, not anything. And that's kind of like stating like a nudge, nudge, wink, wink to the audience. And the audience loves it and laughs.
And then he does something creepy. He goes, "You're gorgeous." And he puts his hands up and starts walking, starting to go toward it. And Balki grabs him. He goes, "Cousin, try to show a little dignity." I don't know what he was going to do.
Yeah, exactly. What does he think he's going to do? So anyway, they all move to the couch to have a seat together. And Marianne, Jennifer, and Balki sit down on the couch, no problem. And Larry kind of like slowly sits. It takes him a bit longer because for some reason he's like, in 40 years, he's aged a lot more than the other three have.
They're doing a lot better than he is. I don't know why.
And then so Balki's like, here we all are together again. 4 Musketeers. And Marianne says, friends till the end. And then there's a beat. And Balki goes, well, we got to go.
We got to go.
And the two of them, Balki and Marianne, stand up to head out. And Larry's like, where are you going? No. And Marianne explains that ever since Balki bought the Cubs, he likes to throw out the first ball. And Balki further elaborates, of every game. And then this is like another weird line, but it gets a laugh from the audience. He says, baseball fever. I caught it and I bought it. That
makes sense. He caught the fever and he's like, I got to buy the team now. I like that they still went with like he loves baseball and the Cubs
and
reference.
Revolving doors.
And somebody bought the Cubs a few years ago, so it happens. Yeah. So again, Larry like pulls him over to the side where they can't hear him because, sitcom rules. And he's like, you can't leave me alone with Jennifer. And Balki tells Larry this is his chance to tell Jennifer how he feels. He says, the sound you hear is opportunity knocking. And he wants to give Larry advice. And Marianne's like, Balki, we gotta go. And he's like, oh, hold on a minute, I'm involved here. and then Marianne goes, Balki. And he's like, just a second. And then again, a third time he goes, Balki. And she just looks at him and he looks at her and he just goes, all right, we gotta go. And then they just walk out. So Marianne,
that was a weird thing.
I think Marianne clearly wears the pants in the family. Is that what they're?
Maybe.
She's the one who rules. Like she just looks at him and he's like, okay, let's go.
That was weird.
That was weird. It was a way to get him out of the apartment, I guess.
So Larry like shuffles his way back to the couch. Balki and Marianne have left, and Jennifer is standing there. Jennifer sits down again quickly, and Larry sits down again more slowly next to her. And then Jennifer says that she doesn't have much time because she has to catch a plane. And then Larry just blurts out, "Don't go to Los Angeles." And Jennifer's like, what are you talking about? I'm going to Monte Carlo. And Larry says, no, it's what I should have said 40 years ago. I wanted you to stay in Chicago with me. I liked you a lot then. I like you a lot now. I'll probably always like you a lot.
A lot of likes.
Larry is being very vulnerable right here. Jennifer tells him that she likes him a lot too, and Larry gets excited. He says, you do? You like me? That's wonderful. And then this part is so funny because Larry looks so old and disheveled. He goes, that's wonderful. We can build a life together. We'll start over. Let's have lots of kids. And then he starts going off in his head. He's like, where do you want to live? I like Chicago, but California is probably better for my rheumatism. Oh, what the heck? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where we are as long as we're together. And then he says, oh, gosh, Jennifer, I feel 60 again.
Oh, my God. How old is he in this thing? They should be in their mid-60s if 40 years in the future.
It doesn't add up. If he's supposed to be 24 or 25.
He lied about his age. He's really 20. He's 20 years older than everyone. What is he, in his 80s?
Then in 40 years, he was only going to be like mid to late 60s.
That's a harsh looking mid 60s there.
Yeah.
Jennifer, though, less excited about this idea. And she goes, Larry, we live in different worlds now. Mine is a world of fancy parties, lunch at the Polo Lounge, dinner at Maxim's. The cholesterol alone would kill you. And she's trying to be polite. She gets up and stands up to leave. And Larry begs her not to go. And she's like, look, if you only said something 40 years ago, things might have been different. And Larry says something very interesting. At first, he goes, I understand. Like, he gets it. He goes, goodbye, Jennifer. Then he sits down. And Jennifer goes, goodbye, Larry, and turns to walk away as he falls to the ground and grabs her leg. And she's trying to walk out and dragging him towards the door. Something that Balki did a lot early on. To remember, he would throw himself at women's.
But then Larry he's grabbing her leg. She's trying to drag herself away, and Larry's just screaming, no, don't leave me, don't leave me. And then
this feels like a good place to end this dream sequence.
Yeah, don't leave me, don't leave me. We hear the music and we wavy fade out of the dream and back to Larry's bedroom where he's grabbing his pillow. He's like squeezing his pillow and he's saying, don't leave me, don't leave me. And then he wakes up, he sits up, and then he just screams.
It's
like
hilarious.
A long scream.
Thought he was getting murdered. He screams so loud, Balki comes out of his door to be like, what's going on in the dark hallway, hearing the screams, and Larry runs out. And now you have a great little bit of physical, frantic Larry here.
Before we talk about what happens, can we talk about, I know we're going to hear about this in a little bit, but Balki's pajamas.
Yes, I could not figure out hopefully Rainey has more details, but what I could make out was they look like little action figures or people with a cape or superheroes. Said
something like Astro on it.
I couldn't figure out what it was.
But more than that, it was like
short pants.
A jumpsuit.
But they cut off at the knee.
A jumpsuit, one piece, but culotte style. Yeah.
Like something you would go swimming in back in the 40s.
Yeah, but like loose and baggy.
Loose.
Yeah.
It looks comfortable, but why
it looks comfortable.
Why doesn't it go all the way down to his ankles?
Who knows?
Yeah. Looks super comfortable.
Okay, so anyway.
Balki's got the greatest pajamas.
Yeah, and his hair is all disheveled. Yeah. He's like out from sleep. And he hears Larry scream. He goes toward the bedroom, but toward Larry's bedroom. Before he can get there, Larry comes running out of his bedroom, pushes Balki against the wall on his way to the living room. Larry is like frantically trying to see what year he's in or whatever. He turns on the light. He runs all around the living room, and he's like basically overjoyed that he's back in reality in 1987 again. So first he goes to the bookcase. And he looks at all the stuff and he says, hello, you wonderful old Meposian artifacts. Then he runs back down the hall to the bathroom, again knocking Balki out of the way. He looks in the mirror. He's like, aha, I have hair, lots of hair. Then he runs back to the living room, again pushing Balki out of the way, goes to the fireplace and picks up a framed photograph from the mantle. And he goes, Mom! And he kisses it. It's not Jennifer.
It's not
Mom.
Jennifer, yeah.
Then he goes to Balki and runs his finger over his face and his upper lip, part. And he says, you have no mustache.
I love how he's got his fingers and he's pressing his upper lip and massaging it real quick. It's so
and
funny.
Balki is just like not saying anything. He's stood in the same place.
What is going on?
With like,
and then a really weird, bizarre, surreal moment as Larry grabs his coat from the closet and he's putting it on, and you could tell he's having trouble with it. It's not, it doesn't go out slowly. And he puts his hand in the pocket and he pulls out flower petals from the pocket. He goes, Zuzu's petals. And I was like, okay, this is weird because
that's a deep cut. I got it.
Okay, well, let's finish what happened. Finish the scene. He goes, Zuzu's petals. He takes a step towards Balki, who's really scared, and just goes, it's not too late.
Oh, no. There's this funny moment where he takes a step toward Balki.
And Balki's like,
And Balki leans away they're doing it in that parallel lean again. They both just he steps forward, Balki leans back.
Because Larry's being crazy.
Yeah.
And then, he says that he screams, it's not too late, runs out the door, and then Balki just goes, must be an antacid flashback. That's kind of a funny line, I guess.
Yes.
Acid flashback, antacid flashback.
Oh, I got it.
Back to Zuzu's petals. Why are Zuzu's petals in the real life in his pocket? This is not even a dream. But if you don't know...
it makes no sense, but it is a fun and silly and random reference.
It is a great Easter egg because if you have watched the classic Christmas movie, It's a Wonderful Life, that is always on TV 24 hours around Christmas time.
From 1946.
Frank Capra classic movie about George Bailey wishing he was dead to see how life would be. And the angel, what's the angel's name? I forget. The angel comes and shows him, George, here's your life if you didn't live. Anyways, when George Bailey returns back from the dream sequence, he reaches into his pocket and he pulls out petals that his daughter Zuzu had put in before. And so that tells him that this is not that dream where I'm not alive, that he's back. And this is real. But it's just a strange thing to put in here to point the.
I think it was just like a last minute joke that they added in, and they all thought it was really funny. I liked it. It was just a silly joke thrown in there.
So then now we go back upstairs to Jennifer and Marianne's dark apartment, and you hear a knock on the door, and Jennifer comes out in her robe from her bedroom to turn on the lights, answer the door. It's Larry, of course, and Larry instantly goes, Jennifer, don't go to Los Angeles. And Jennifer finally heard what she wanted to hear.
Kind of smiles.
She goes, you don't want me to go?
And then we hear our lesson time music.
There is lesson time music? I missed that.
There is lesson time music here, just briefly. And, it's I'm not even sure it's a lesson, but it's the part of the episode where things get wrapped up. And then we have a very 1980s PG-13 conversation in which Jennifer, without much consideration, happily passes up an exciting career opportunity because of a man.
Not just any man,
about that
an Appleton.
Because of Larry Appleton. So, but here's how it goes down. Larry tells Jennifer that he really likes her.
Yeah,
and he hasn't liked anybody that much. And Jennifer tells Larry that earlier when he didn't say anything, she thought that he didn't feel about her the way she felt about him.
Whoa.
And then she says something that I've been doubting this whole time, but she says it, I like you, Larry.
Oh.
And then she kind of hesitates. She goes, well, as long as you like me.
Oh, there's a condition
she's
now,
doubting
Jennifer?
herself.
Yeah.
No, it's more of a self-conscious thing. She didn't want to put herself out there.
Yeah.
Unless he also liked her.
One person has to say it first. That's all that happens.
And then Larry says, I do, I like you, and I want you to stay.
Aww.
And then Jennifer says she also wants to stay.
Yeah, I don't think she wanted to leave.
And then Larry is so happy, and he says, you won't be sorry. We'll have fun. I'll do nice things for you. And then there's a beat, and he goes, you want a pizza?
I love that. He's so childlike. He's like, you want a pizza?
I'll do nice things for you. And that's what nice things are to him.
And Jennifer's like, Larry, it's 3:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. I woke you up. You're in your bedroom. Okay, I'm going to go downstairs. But then he's all freaking out and he stops and he does the thing every guy has done, in high school. We're like, do you still like me?
Yeah.
And then Jennifer kisses Larry. Finally,
she kisses him on the lips.
Good work, Larry Appleton.
And says, I don't know. I feel like Balki and Marianne have been kissing for a while.
Oh, they were making out in the avalanche in the cabin over there in the cottage? Yeah.
And Jennifer has always sort of said goodbye and walked away every time there was a moment for a kiss. But anyway, she finally kisses him on the lips. And she says, does that answer your question? And Larry then pulls Jennifer into a full passionate kiss. And then after a moment, they like separate. They're both a little like stunned and euphoric, whatever. And Jennifer's like, I guess it does. Then Larry's all flustered and he's like, okay, I should be going. And then he looks at her. He's like, right? Shouldn't I? And Jennifer's like, yes, I think so. And Larry's like, yeah, okay. And he says goodnight. And he's like over the moon, happy. He's smiling. He says goodnight. He turns to leave. Jennifer watches him leave. He leaves the scene out the door of the apartment. And then we hear all this tumbling and yelling and basically sounds of Larry falling down the flight of stairs. And we hear him land with a loud noise at the bottom. Then we hear him yell, I'm fine. And she closes the door.
And then it cuts back to the guy's apartment, and you see Balki still there, all disheveled.
He's in the same spot.
He has not moved because he's like, what just happened?
He's just standing in the middle of the living room in the same
he's
spot
like, did that just
Larry
happen?
left him in.
What is going on?
Yeah.
But then Larry enters and he's limping, which is hilarious. And he goes, Balki, you'll never guess what happened. And Balki goes, you fell down the stairs? Larry goes, well, yes, but that's not important. Jennifer's not going to Los Angeles. She likes me. She really likes me. And Balki goes, cousin, you're starting to sound like Sally Field at the Academy Awards.
Okay.
There's a little topical reference.
Here's a reference. Sally Field. This is a reference to the Academy Awards, the Oscars in 1985. Sally Field accepted the award for Best Actress for the film Places in the Heart. And she made this speech which later, which had a quote that became a popular joke.
But she never said it.
No, she did. She did. If you play it, right. We have the clip. We're about to play it. And I think it became a joke because it sounded like really, I don't know, fake or like over exaggerated or something. But at the time, it became a joke. But let's hear that bit of the speech.
But this time I feel it, and I can't deny the fact that you like me right now. You like me.
See, she doesn't say you like me, you really like me. She says you like, oh, there's John Malkovich.
What?
You like me right now, you really like me. But it turned into, you like me.
Wait, no, play it one more time from 331. Let's see what comes after that.
And I can't deny the fact that you like me right now. You like me.
That's it.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
It's the same thing how people think, Darth Vader said, Luke, I am your father. He didn't exactly say those exact words, but there's a couple of instances.
Wait, what did he say?
He just says, I am your father. He doesn't say Luke. Right. But there's a couple of instances of famous lines getting a life of their own that weren't actually said that way, and it becomes a different thing. And this is one of the big ones. But everybody made this joke about you like me, you really like me.
Yeah. I mean, not anymore. I didn't know it.
I did. Yeah, that's an old one. They don't do it anymore. But I remember when people would make this joke. I don't know why, though. Yeah.
I think it's just because she sounded so over the top. And so, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, the final bit, wrapping up this act and this episode, Larry says he's so happy and he owes it all to Balki because Balki was the one who told him to tell Jennifer how he feels. And Balki has a funny line here. He says, well, I tried to call them like I called them. And then Larry realizes that he always lets opportunities slip through his fingers because he's always afraid to take chances. But he says, I learned a lesson tonight. And Balki says, yes, you did. You took the bull by the horns and you stepped in something good. Yeah. There's that line again that we like.
It's Bull Baba Sticky he stepped in.
And then just to close out with a nice rule of three gag, Larry says, Balki, I feel like I'm on top of the world. I feel like I could do anything. I feel like I broke my leg. From the fall down the stairs, of course. And then we see them kind of limping together to the couch and roll credits.
Listener, before we get into our thoughts, I need you to get into one of our t-shirts. Go to visit our website, our TeePublic shop, danceofjoy.com/shop.
Get in the shirt.
Get in the shirt. You don't have to get in just the shirt. There's hoodies, there's tank tops, there's travel mugs, there's tote bags. You can wear the tote bag on your head. I don't care. Just buy some merch, take a photo, send it to us, and we'll be forever grateful. danceofjoypod.com/shop for all the swag. Okay, this was a very weird, dark episode. Like
It's dark.
strange.
Okay, so like I get it. They wanted like a story tool to like get this relationship started, right? To like
I mean, it's a
tell
big
audiences-
moment. This episode has a big moment in the course of these characters' lives, and for them to do it with this really dark, depressing
yeah.
episode is crazy.
And also an episode in which Jennifer like gives up opportunities
Okay, so
to stay back with Larry when up until now they never actually showed her really having strong feelings for him.
Yeah, it is that thing. Do you give up a career for someone you love? But this isn't even love. This is someone you just discovered you like.
This isn't even love. Yeah, they haven't even been together
My
that
theory
long.
is she didn't even have a job and she was testing Larry.
Maybe.
That seems like something Jennifer would do.
Also, yeah, maybe.
Well, and he wouldn't have offered to go with her initially. That's a little clingy and stalkery.
That's risky on his part. I mean, he could. He's like a rookie. He's a cub reporter. He could find a reporting job, but that is a little risky. In
But
early stage
the minute he hears that in the beginning, I felt that for him. You could feel in his face where
what do I do?
his breath is kind of taken away, and you're like, oh, but I don't. But I let you to. That's a good job.
Like at what point in an early relationship can you be like, I don't want you to go?
They don't even
stay
have a
here.
relationship, so he had to nip this in the bud because he wouldn't even had a chance.
But everyone else knew, like Balki knew, Marianne knew.
What do you think about that, Larry?
Jennifer
she was trying to
also
get him.
Knew,
he was trying to get both of them.
There was something,
And both of them were hesitant, so they were trying to get them to discuss their feelings. Also, this is a good note you wrote. Jennifer is a flight attendant. She could be like, oh, I could stop by here every time.
Yeah,
fly
she
over.
can fix her schedule to always be on Chicago flights and be there on the weekends. Like, there's so many things you can do to have both.
You could have done the long distance thing. It would have been fun.
And then if they survived or if their relationship still grew, then they could talk about Larry moving to LA or her, I don't know. And it might not have even been a permanent move. It's a it's an airline.
But she didn't want to go. She's like, Chicago is my home, and I don't want to go to Los Angeles.
I mean,
Everything
obviously,
worked out.
these are like deep questions that we're poking at just a plot tool to get this relationship
I'm
going.
resolved to just thinking everything worked out for the best. Great.
But also in 1987, I feel like there was a hidden message here where television and Hollywood
Stay
were like,
for your man.
Stay where you are for your man. The man is more important than the job opportunity.
Well, I mean,
and the promotion.
we had working 9 to 5 with Dolly Parton, which was like big for working women. But no, it definitely wasn't like professional women. It was still early ish.
Right.
Ish. I don't know.
Give up your potential glamorous lifestyle
For a guy you maybe kind of like, who has no lips, but you're going to kiss him anyways.
All right. So, what else is interesting about this episode?
We did get to see Larry's bedroom for the first time.
Yeah, he sleeps in a twin bed.
Sleeps in a small
We have a
bed.
dream sequence, which maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll see this again in this series, but it certainly was used a lot in sort of 70s and 80s sitcoms, enough that like immediately that music and that wave was like nostalgic, and you know right away what's about to happen.
Remember Wayne's World? Wade and Garth, they made it. They made it famous with the wiggling their fingers. They're going
Their fingers. Yeah.
But that's the cue. It's a dream.
Yeah.
What else do we see in the dream sequence?
Dimitri.
Oh my God! There's a Dimitri appearance in the dream sequence, and not just any Dimitri appearance, sister.
All the
This
Dimitris.
is all like how we talked about. There's multiple Dimitris.
Yes.
The whole family of Dimitris, like the male, the
There's
female,
actually
there's a little
3.
kid. Yeah, there's a little kid Dimitri. That's fantastic.
And this is in the upstairs apartment on the
Future Marianne's apartment.
fireplace mantle. Yeah, Marianne and Balki's upstairs apartment.
So that's the real Dimitri appearance. What do we have from our friend, actual Dimitri Sheep on Instagram?
On Dimitri Sheep Instagram, we have yet another brilliantly done post.
This is great.
Dimitri Sheep, we say this every time. We love you. You know, last time I said, whoever you are, we love you. We don't know who you are.
It's Dimitri.
I had to eat my words because after that episode aired, I got a note from Dimitri Sheep saying, I'm Dimitri the Sheep, duh. And Dimitri Sheep also writes in a Myposian accent.
Yeah. This post, somebody tagged Bronson in the post.
Yeah,
here.
I saw that. So this is another very well done Dimitri Sheep post in which, although Dimitri Sheep, I don't know how you took this selfie because it's from behind your head, but
he has
maybe
a
you
human
have. Maybe you have a yes, that's right. The message said there's a human that helps him.
A human. Don't humiliate
Anyway,
him.
Dimitri Sheep is staring at a computer.
A MacBook.
We're in modern times.
A laptop.
A MacBook. And so interesting. Have glasses. And on the screen is Bronson Pinchot's Instagram, current Instagram, with a mustache.
Wait, is that a real picture from his Instagram, or did they add the mustache? Anyways, go ahead. That's what I wondered. I was like, what is this picture from?
Hold on. We can find that out. Oh, wait. There was a mustache. No, it's a real picture. I found it.
Really? He must have did it for a role or something. This is a real photo from Bronson's Instagram. Fantastic.
Yes, the mustache is real. It must have been a pandemic thing or for a role or something. Also on the screen, we see separate small windows with photos of Marianne, current day, Rebecca, what's her name? Rebecca Arthur. And Marklyn Baker, present day. Oh, I take it back. Marklyn Baker today has more hair than future Larry.
However, you know what's amazing about this is these are the real pictures of what they look like almost 40 years later, like in the dream.
And then, who are we missing? Jennifer. Yeah. Then on top of the keyboard is a framed and what looks like signed
It
photograph.
says best wishes, Melanie Wilson. Black and white photo of Melanie Wilson. That's wild.
Melanie Wilson from the 80s Melanie Wilson.
Just like in the show, they got the old three and the one young Jennifer. And then the books on the side. There's one book that says Loneliness. And then the book next to it is Marie Kondo's The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. I don't know if that has anything to do with it.
Love it. What? That's about Larry's hoarding in his future apartment.
Oh, my God. Well done.
I love it. This is so well done. We love Dimitri Sheep. All the posts, all the time. Please never stop. And stay with us till the end of this journey.
You know what else doesn't stop? The Balkiisms. We have tons of them. Like, there are none so blind as those who will not hear. That's profound.
I tried to call them like I called them.
I like to call them or I wish he would mixed it up and I like to see them as I call them, or call them, or see them as I see them. You took the bull by the horns and you stepped in something good, cousin.
Yes. He says, don't be ridiculous almost once.
Of course I have. Don't be ridiculous.
He says, of course I have.
Don't be absurd. I like that. I like that.
Future version of don't be ridiculous.
We got a wow.
Oh, yeah, Yuki Biggie Mookie, cousin Larry.
Baba Steaky. And then Larry says Baba Steaky. And then I love when they do, well, we got to go. And they just get up and go.
Other running jokes in this episode, we've got Marianne saying something random like, oh, of course not. I have allergies. I'm not moving to LA. Oh, no, I have allergies. We've got the antacid, room temperature antacid
in the cupboard.
Time.
Yeah. Larry sniffs in the air.
Yeah, when he smells the snout.
How many times does he fall down the stairs? Does he fall down the stairs a lot?
No. I think that was a first.
What do you think about that, Larry?
Class. What do you think about that,
That's
Larry?
my favorite line in the whole episode.
Now we're going to talk about Perfect Strangers today, which is the segment on our show when we think about if this story were happening today, how would things be different? And this is super interesting in this episode because their 40 years in the future is very close to today,
right.
but our 40 years in the future will be 2061.
Oh, boy, am I going to be around.
Like when you
maybe.
dream about your future self in 40 years from now, what do you see?
I see myself in a wheelchair on
Flying cars,
No.
although
Flying wheelchair. Drone
flying
wheelchair.
wheelchairs.
I see drone wheelchairs for the elderly.
Drone wheelchairs. That would be awesome.
So that your children can just program you to follow their car on the trip. So they don't have to worry about you. It's a separate grandpa car.
Okay, but let's even go back from there to the general premise of this story. Long distance relationships are much easier now. I feel like people meet each other online from long distance and start. Like they could even be at their early stages.
Absolutely.
We have technology. We have, more ways to, although Chicago to LA is pretty far, but like you can video chat, you can do everything.
This
online.
episode would have ended at the end of the first act where Larry would have been like, oh, cool, we can Zoom every night. No problem.
Yeah. Cool. I'll be out there for the holidays or whatever.
Yeah. I'll come see you all the time.
I know like whole married couples that don't live in the same city.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. It's like a thing.
That's an interesting setup there.
People have different work situations.
Yeah.
People have different. Some people just get along better when they're
When there's
not
less,
together all the
interaction.
time.
Sure.
But the point is, like, it's more a thing now. Like, I watched this and I was like, okay, I guess in '87. If you were in Chicago and someone was like, I'm moving to LA, that it felt like
it's
a
done.
million miles away and it's the end of the world and there's no possible way. I don't know. I was too young to be having relationships then. I would love to hear from someone older if long distance relationships were, how popular they were, how doable they were back in the 80s.
Well, here's the thing is the stigma of going to LA is still the same. Like if that happened, you're like, that person's gone. They're going to get sucked up in the LA lifestyle. You never had
glamour.
the glam. They're going to get used to this. They're going to move on past you, never come back. They're just kind of what he envisioned in his head.
I guess so, yeah. Although, interestingly, he didn't envision any like celebrities or movie stars. It was like an astronaut and oil people
magnet.
And whatever. But I would think LA, and she's, like attractive young woman.
But it is the future. Who knows?
Right. Maybe she started with celebrities and ended up with oil millionaires.
That's what it's time for, everybody.
What is it time for?
It's time for our Balki Duds report from Rainey from this episode.
Hello, Imran and Sophia and everybody out there listening to the Dance of Joy podcast. This is Rainey from Balki Duds, here to chat just a little bit about Season 3, Episode 10, Future Shock. So, the majority of this episode takes place in the future, so we just see our beloved characters wearing whatever their version of quote-unquote old people clothes are. Except, of course, for, Jennifer's very, very fashionable duds. But we do see a new vest in this episode that I've never seen before.
Oh.
I really, really don't think it appears in Season 1 before I was tracking these. So that means that this is probably the very first appearance, the debut, if you will, of the vest that I am going to call Flags of the World.
Yeah.
The reason I'm calling it that is because in between all these black and white crisscrosses, kind of these big X's that seem to crisscross all the way across the vest, there are these little, these little pictures almost, or these little shapes that look like flags to me with like a handle. And it makes me think of semaphore, like where the people hold a flag in each hand and move the flags around in different configurations to like signal to people that are far away.
See it. Yeah.
I think like armies used them and things and maybe still do. I have no idea. Not my area of expertise. And yes, I did just have to Google that word because I absolutely could not remember what it was. Semaphore. So it looks like flags. They also kind of remind me of what the color guard uses in a marching band, the big flags that they throw up in the air. So, Flags of the World made sense to me. The one other thing we have in this episode, which is not a quote-unquote old person outfit, is what I was calling superhero pajamas earlier, in a way earlier episode, I think, from Season 2.
Oh.
I don't know what they are. Maybe these are from a real cartoon that I just don't know and someone can write in or something, but there's these different characters. It could be like G.I. Joe or something. I really cannot tell. So if you know, please, send an email to Dance of Joy or something, or you can comment on one of our Instagrams, and please help solve this mystery for us.
Yes.
Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this week's Balki Duds, and I will talk to you all again soon. Bye.
Yay. Thank you, Rainey.
And the ridiculous old man tie.
Make sure you follow Rainey at Balki Duds. I'm looking at this pajama again. It says Astro, and yeah, it looks like action figures and cartoons, and one of them has a cape, one of them's flying. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what these characters are.
But another terrific report from Balki Duds.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Rainey. Everybody go follow her on the Instagrams. Okay, we have a few shout outs. Our very devoted listeners had a lot to say about this.
Yeah, there was a lot in here.
Episode, even though many agreed that it was not the greatest episode, but there was still a lot to say. We're just gonna talk about a few of these comments. Cousin Evelyn Behar says, points out a Shakespeare reference. When Balki tells Larry, tell her that you will die 1,000 deaths if she goes to California. This is borrowed from Julius Caesar. A coward dies 1,000 times before his death, but the valiant taste of death but once. She writes, note that it's also used in the episode to refer to cowardice, which is Larry's cowardice.
I think she's mentioned in the past that Bronson, and both of them are Shakespearean dudes. They did a lot of Shakespeare.
Yale-trained actors.
They did a lot of Shakespeare.
Stage actors.
Yeah.
Okay, so another thing from Cousin, thank you for that reference, Evelyn. That's something we apparently are not cultured enough to have picked up on. But that's a great note. Another thing from Evelyn Behar is that this is super interesting. Balki and Larry have basically switched roles in old age.
Yep.
Balki's wearing a suit and using bigger words. Larry is wearing suspenders, speaking Maposian, and dependent on his cousin for housing. Total switch.
That's interesting. I like that.
The second point under this is that back in season 1, Balki was throwing himself at Susan's feet, literally, and Larry was telling him to have some dignity. Now it's Larry throwing himself at Jennifer's feet, literally, and Balki is telling him to have some dignity. Again, they've switched roles.
This is a very subtle layer that they put in there. That it doesn't really stick out, but it does maybe make the episode a little bit better, I guess, with this thought. Very well done, Cousin Evelyn.
Thank you, Cousin Evelyn. Next, we have some insightful comments from Cousin Pam Hitchcock, who writes, Cousin Pam, you bought us coffees. Thank you.
Yeah, she's great.
Cousin Pam writes, honestly, to me, this was just a meh episode. No real physical comedy or witty dialogue. My favorite line was, must be an antacid flashback.
Yeah, I mean,
that is a clever line.
I kind of agree with her there, too. It's so funny. Something big happens, and this episode is just like, there's not a lot of jokes and a lot of the things we're used to.
Right. Another good point from Cousin Pam. Is merely liking someone a good reason to turn down a great career opportunity? No. It was still up in the air if Jennifer even liked Larry, which is what I've been saying this whole time.
Yeah.
I would think you'd need a bigger commitment than I like you and I like you if you like me.
Like me. Yeah.
Very good point.
It's
I 100%
very like
agree.
Junior high.
Right.
Relationship.
Well, that's okay. And this is also what Cousin Pam says in another comment. Obviously, the episode is to get Larry and Jennifer together, but I think there are probably many different ways to write their story that may have been better.
I agree.
I do think the scene in Jennifer's apartment is very sweet, and Mark Lynn Baker really sold it. Yeah. But I couldn't help but think that dialogue is what middle schoolers
It is. It's like
say.
when you get the note, and it's like, do you like me? Check one box. Yes. No, maybe.
Do you like me or do you like me?
I mean, it was very sweet, and I got happy for them, and I was like, oh my God, finally. But just what a weird way to get there.
It's weird. Yeah, the whole thing was weird.
There was another way you could have got there, writers. Okay.
I don't know. I feel like they just wanted to play with like old age makeup and this idea of like a flash
again,
forward.
And one kind of a dud episode in a season, though, that has a lot funny episodes coming up. They're not all going to be great people.
It happens.
Sometimes you're going to swing and miss. It's okay.
Maybe, in fact, next week will be a better, what's the opposite of a miss? A hit.
Maybe, in fact,
next week
are we doing baseball metaphors? What are we doing? Sports? I don't know
sports. I was just watching the spelling bee. That's the only sport I know.
Touchdown. He hit a home run. Touchdown.
Okay, maybe next week we'll be back to some good physical comedy and some better witty banter. Next week, Balki learns how to do something that we've all been doing quite a bit in our current times, which is to binge watch television.
Oh my God, it's the early Netflix prophecies.
Before binge watching was a thing.
Listen, I feel like I will relate to this episode because when we got cable the first time, I remember just my eyes glazing over and going, "Oh my God!"
Much.
We
I
get
mean,
all
we
these
already
channels.
watched too much television
We do.
before we
Yeah.
had cable,
Oh,
so that
absolutely.
just made it.
That was just network television with 4
Worse.
channels, and I couldn't peel myself away from it. And then we got cable, and it was over.
So join us next week. We'll talk about our own experiences
Well,
and
I have
how
some
much
stories.
we can relate
Yes, I do.
to Balki and what happens with Balki.
In the meantime, you can get in touch with us, listener. We'd love to hear from you. This is, Sophia, if you listen to podcasts like Joe Rogan and you send him an email, he's not going to read your email.
Nope.
He's not going to say your name. He's not even going to acknowledge you, listener, but we will. We love hearing from you. Visit our website, danceofjoypod.com. It's a two-way street. We give you entertainment and you give us feedback and money. I don't know how this works. Content for the show. But danceofjoypod.com for all the links of everything you need if you love the show and want to get more involved.
Don't forget the most important thing with a podcast. What's the most important thing for a podcast?
You got to press play. Otherwise, you're not going to hear anything. It just sits there.
We
You
have
gotta
to press
play.
record.
Oh,
You
yeah.
have to press
There's
play.
2
But
things.
the next most important thing is that you have to share the show with a friend. That would be very kind and generous of you. It costs 0 cents to share the show with a friend. Talk about it. The world is opening up again. You're going to be seeing your friends at the barbecues and the cookouts and all the summer fun.
They're going to be like, what's a good new show? What's a good new podcast you've been listening to?
Yeah.
This is the podcast. And maybe someone...
And you're going to say, Dance of Joy Pod is amazing, and please pass the potato salad.
Please pass the burgers. Maybe somebody on our Instagram leaves a comment. Maybe they tag Bronson Pinchot. Maybe. I'm not saying you have to. I'm just a suggestion.
Maybe.
I want him to kind of discover
The
it.
correct Bronson Pinchot account.
Not the other one. That's not a real account. Anyways, listener, thank you so much for listening and following us on this journey. And now we are so happy.
Now we are so happy we do the dance of joy. Hey, hey.